This video, this is going to be sort of part two of the s'more working drawing file here we're working on. And we're going to go ahead and model this Hershey bar here today, this chocolate bar. And we'll go ahead and start right out by setting up a new sketch plane that will then become a new part file. I shouldn't say a new part file, but a new part in the OnShape s'more drawing file. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and grab our sketch tool. And it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference what window or what plane we work in this. I do want to kind of set this up so it is sort of logical, if you will, to me. So I'm going to go. All right, so with the top plane selected, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. Going to go ahead and grab some sketch geometry. Grab my line tool, and I'm going to go ahead and sketch in, scoot this window a little bit so you can see, and push this over. I'm going to go ahead and sketch in this right side section view profile. And I'm not going to get the profile of this indentation yet. We'll do that later with an extrusion. But I just really want to work out this profile of this entire part. And I'm going to use the dimensions that are given in the top view for the 9. That's your extrusion information here and the depth information. So we're going to go ahead and grab my line tool. I'm just going to go ahead and sketch in a line. Again, I've really sort of gotten used to trying to sketch things in first and then start dimensioning them for size. So 25.86, that's the size of the line. Then I'm going to go ahead and I want to set this up in my height. So from center, I'm going to come up, drop my line in position, and drop this line. Whoops. Drop this line in position, because what I want to do is I want to set up the height of this part, which is going to be 9, and now I want to start setting up the right and left sides. So if this is 16, the whole part at the top, I'm going to set this up as 8, and I'm going to do the other side as well. Now, because it's not a very complicated part, and I know that I'm most likely not going to come back and change this, I'm not going to worry about setting up center marks and symmetrical relationships and the like to do this. I'm really just going to start connecting some points here to get this thing roughed out as quickly as possible. So given that, I don't need that center line, I can delete it, and now I am ready to extrude. So those were the dimensions that were given. That's what I'm going to work with. I'm going to go ahead and extrude this thing, and that's going to be the 44.92. So we'll put that in, 44.92, and now we're running in the right direction. So we still need to now go ahead and set up some angles on the end, but we're going to work at the chamfer tool to make that happen. So we'll use the chamfer to go ahead and push those angles in. So come up here, grab the chamfer tool off the bar at the top, and looking at this pull down, we got equal distance, two distances, distance, and an angle. Well, I do not see any angle information on here. I do see some distance information as 9 and also 4.93. I could probably also just use some math where I take the 25.86 minus 16 divided by 2 gives me that distance also. So we're going to go with two distances. We'll go ahead and call this distance 9, and then we're going to go ahead and call this 4.93. Now I'm going to select this edge as the edge that it's going to start functioning off of, and that looks like it's going to do something to what I'm expecting. So I'll go ahead and grab the other side. That goes ahead and chamfers in my chocolate bar on the sides. So green check that, and we're then going to say, all right, we're good. Now let's start putting some detail work on the top. All right, so go ahead and set that detail work up. I'm going to grab my sketch tool, drop that on the front face, turn, and actually I'm going to turn this. I'm looking at it really from the view that I'm looking to replicate. So now looking at this, a few different ways we could do this. We could use the offset tool to offset this in. We could set up a rectangle and then center the rectangle. Probably multiple ways to do this. So take a look here and let's see if I can find that offset tool. There's the offset tool. If I grab the offset tool, start working my way around here, I can actually offset just one line where I can do this and pull in, but then I got to start offsetting all these lines and then start trimming, and yeah, I'm not really liking that idea. It's too much work. If I sit over top of the face, I should be able to select, there's what I want. I want to be able to do an offset where I can just tell this thing one distance and it pulls that in for me for the entire rectangle. So knowing this information, I can look at this and see, we got 16 here. The depth here is 1. So then I can say that that radius of this arc is also going to be 1. So if I were to go ahead and put in 1 millimeter, that looks like that's going to probably work out just fine. And then we're going to go ahead and do an extrusion in here. Now I don't want to add material, I want to take away material. So I'm going to hit remove, but I certainly don't want to go that deep. So again, there's that 1 millimeter. We'll take that 1 millimeter and tell it that's what we're going to do. And that looks pretty good for the indentation on my chocolate bar. Now I need to take and just fill it over this inside edge. So to do that, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to grab the fillet tool. I'm going to go ahead and set up that 1 millimeter radius and then start working my way around here. And I can see that this is going to do exactly what I was hoping it was going to do. Let me zoom in here on the corner and you can see what's going to happen here. It's going to just fillet that in into a perfect round corner. So that's great. That's what I'm looking for. Green check on that. And then we'll run back up here to the front face. Now we're ready to start putting on some text and then embossing that text. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start a sketch. Drop that sketch on the face of the chocolate bar, and we'll go ahead and grab that text tool right here. It says text if you sit over top of it. And I'm going to go ahead and pull a small window in here for the text. And we'll type in Hershey's. Oops, there we go. And we'll hit the green check. And oh wow, okay, so what's happening is it's running in the same direction as the front view is positioned. So not a big deal. What we got to do is rotate it, change the size, but we'd have to change the size anyway. So to rotate something, just make sure it's highlighted. So we'll go ahead and highlight all that text. So, and then we're going to grab this tool, linear, circular, but transform is what's going to allow us to do our rotation. So once you hit that transform button, you get this little arrow glyph, little square. What I want is this like little airplane looking thing with our little arc on it. Once I grab that, I can click and pull this down to 90 degrees. Could also type in 90 degrees and then a left click. So that puts it in position. I'm going to also go right ahead since it's now here, it's highlighted. I'm going to go ahead and set up my height, which I'm just going to make this 4 millimeters because I'm thinking 4 millimeters is going to work. I don't necessarily think that there is a height given in a drawing, but it does need to be proportional to the Hershey bar. So when you select it, you got to grab these text by one of these corner grips. You just can't grab it. So we go and position this. Now, I don't think there's any dimensional information on the positioning of this. I think this is completely set up for aesthetics. So we go ahead and do that. It's in position and hit that green check, finish the sketch, grab the extrude tool next, zoom in, and then let's grab, now I don't want to do each one separately. Let's go ahead and grab, so make sure Hershey's is all highlighted. And I'm not going to emboss this out. Embossing is in, so we're going to hit remove information or remove the material there. So it's going to go in. Note, wait a minute. What's it say here on the drawing? It does say note text is embossed right here. 0.5 is what we're working with. So back here to OnShape, 0.5 is my embossing. And then hit enter and then my green check. And now you can see I have an embossed Hershey's chocolate bar. That is all set and ready to get laid out onto my sheet and set ready for my assembly. The only last thing that I want to do is start renaming some parts here. Part 1, part 2 is going to get a little confusing. So what I'm going to do is just select this part 1, right click and rename this, call this cracker. So I know it's a graham cracker. And then part 2 right now I'm going to go right in and rename, whoops. All right, there, now my computer caught up. So right click and hit rename and we'll call this Hershey's. There we go. So I have my cracker, my graham cracker, and my Hershey's. And now I'm ready to go ahead and start my next object in this assembly, which is going to be the marshmallow. Okay, to go ahead and start that marshmallow, I'm going to go ahead and grab my sketch tool and I'm going to grab a plane. Just grab any plane at this point. Probably actually grab this front plane, which I think that's what yep, front plane is selected. I'm going to go to that front plane, grab my circle tool, And now I got to find some dimensional information on this thing. I think it's fairly simple looking though. Yeah, so it's 30 millimeters by 30 millimeters. And it's got a fillet on the edge. Don't have a dimension, but we'll probably just give it a, I don't know, 1 or 2 dimension fillet. So we'll go ahead and pull out a circle here. We're going to go ahead and grab this as 30 millimeters. Finish that sketch. Grab the extrude tool, and we'll go ahead and extrude this out 30 millimeters. Fantastic. Let's grab that fillet tool, set this up. Now 5 definitely looks like too much. Let's go ahead and hit 1, see what that does. Yeah, 1's fine. I mean, this is a marshmallow. Let's say if we wanted to do it as 2. Yeah, 2 looks fine too. I mean, either way, it's a marshmallow. We're going to run with it. So at 30 millimeters, that's your diameter. And then we have a fillet. And we'll maybe take this back to 1.5. Love how they both update at the same time. So green check, that's all set and ready to go. And now I'm almost ready. Yeah, I'm ready to start building an assembly. So before I start building the assembly, I'm going to then also right click on that part 3, and I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this thing Marshmallow. There's my marshmallow. All right. So to go ahead and start building the assembly, not a problem. We're going to go ahead and hit this assembly button here at the bottom of the screen. And we just need to start putting parts in. Very similar to any other solid modeling software. Hit the insert button at the top. Come down over here. First thing I'm going to want is a cracker. So we're going to go ahead and drop the cracker in position. Then I'm going to want a Hershey's bar. Drop that in position. And then a marshmallow. Pull that in, drop it in position. Now, I'm going to want to go ahead and display this thing as an isometric view. So one of the first things I'm going to do is over here on the left, I'm going to go in and I'm going to set this up as an isometric. And that's not the isometric view that I want. So if I go back and I look at the drawing, I can take a look at this drawing and see, okay, that's the isometric view I want. Come back over here to OnShape. I want that isometric view where this is going to sit sort of something like this. And my marshmallow is going to be, stacked on top with a Hershey bar here. When I hit this corner cube, what that does is it moves to a different isometric view. So if I go to this, it keeps pulling to these different isometric views, not the view that I'm looking for. So probably has a lot to do with the fact that when I started out this drawing, I was not pulling and setting up the right planes. So it's not a huge deal. What's going to happen though is I'm going to go back to my cracker and I'm going to change that view. So what I'm going to want to do here is when I go back to my isometric, all right, I want this drawing, I want this cracker flipped down. So I want this cracker so that the bottom of this is on my bottom plane. So when I come back into my assembly view, this is flipped down so that my isometric view is set correctly, okay? Think about what you're trying to show here over here in the drawing and how you want to set this up so it previews properly. So what you want to do is head back here to the Part Studio. So from the assembly file, just come back here to Part Studio 1. And you want to go back to the first part that you made. And this is one of the things I really like about OnShape is that everything is going to update through. And it's pretty neat to watch. So what we'll do is I'm going to then go ahead, while I'm in this Part Studio area, I'm going to hit isometric. It does the same thing, goes to sort of this funky view for me. And what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to want to get this graham cracker. So the first sketch is justified on this top view. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to slide back up here. I'm going to find that first sketch, double click on the sketch, and it says sketch plane front view or front plane. I'm going to select it and then click on the top plane. You can see the sketch just turn and move. I'm going to hit the green check and then it's going to update. Now, what it also did, you can see that I lost half of my array parts here. Not a big deal to worry about because when I arrayed those, I used one of these planes because I have this set up on plane. I used a plane to mirror the parts, so it's not a big deal. I'll just come looking down through here and find where that mirror is. Well, there's the mirror. The issue is that it lost its mirror. So instead of using the mirror plane as top, I'm going to select here and I'm going to say, all right, how about you use front? So it uses front now and it updates. So hit the green check and now that's going to update through. So One of the things I really do like about OnShape is that it updates pretty nicely moving through. So now I think we're ready to jump back into that assembly and go ahead and hit that isometric view, and I can see, yep, you can look at this graham cracker over here. That graham cracker is now in the same orientation in both views. All right, so we know that the orientation's right. What we'll do is we're going to break here. We'll come back to how to build the assembly in the next view, and then how to do the parts list, how to set this up, exploded view drawing, and how to lay this out in another video. So look back here for part 3.